Daytona Beach, Florida, the original home of stock car racing. When you gaze out at the famed beach here, you cannot help but feel the never-ending rhythm of the Atlantic Ocean. But a few miles to the west, there beats a different rhythm. The Daytona International Speedway, which this week is pulsating to the sounds of powerful, throaty engines waiting to be unleashed as the 2007 NASCAR season roars into view. The quest is about to begin with the final Busch Series practice section. Live at the famed Daytona International Speedway. Sunday afternoon, 168,000 fans will gather for the great American race. On Saturday, it'll be the Busch race. And this morning, we've got the final practice session. You can see it is only 45 degrees here in Daytona, but a breeze not nearly as stiff as yesterday's, measured at 8 miles an hour out of the west-northwest. Welcome, everybody. This is the first time in 6 years that ESPN has the pleasure of covering NASCAR live. I couldn't be happier to be a part of this team. Everywhere you look around the NASCAR scene, there's one story after another. Here with the Busch Series, what a blend of youngsters and veterans we've got here. The great Tony Stewart, he has won the last 2 Busch races here at Daytona. He'll be one of the favorites also come Sunday. He has never won the 500. And how about 25-year-old John Wood? Third generation of the famed Wood family. He had the fastest time yesterday in Busch practice run. We'll see what he can do today. We have got so many folks just waiting to tell you the great stories that we've got. Let's start upstairs with our play-by-play booth. Let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch. Jerry.
Thank you so much, Brandon. We are thrilled to be back as the exclusive home of the NASCAR Busch Series, and I'm honored to be joined by a couple of championship analysts, 55-time Cup Series winner, 89 Series champion Rusty Wallace, and 2-time championship crew chief Andy Petrie. And Rusty, if you are one of the 49 drivers in this final session, what is your mindset right now?
Jerry, I'm paying attention to the way my car is going to handle. I've been down here the whole month, off and on, practicing, getting ready for this big event on Saturday. 2 things we've got to accomplish. We've got to get this car qualified, get it into race number 1. Number 2, get out there, make sure my car handles really good. I'm talking really good. And after that's done, pay attention that when you're out there practicing, not to get yourself in any accidents or anything that's going to make you go to a backup car. Pay attention because it's getting down to it right now.
Andy, as a crew chief, what are your priorities in this session?
Well, this is the final practice. This is the last chance that I have to get this car right for the biggest race of the season. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to be working on tape. I'm going to be working on the chassis changes to make the car comfortable in traffic. And also, I'm going to try to build some adjustability into it so I can adjust it for tomorrow's race. If we have some changing conditions, I need to be able to adjust the car for the race.
All right, still a lot of adjustments have to be made on these cars in this final session. You know, over the years, there is one element that has remained a constant in NASCAR, and that is change. For more on all the changes, here's Alan Bestwick.
Jerry, so many new things to look at and look for as the new season gets underway. Examples inside the car. Unleaded fuel to be used in all the races this season for the very first time in the Busch Series. And the cars themselves as Toyota brings its Camry into competition for the first time. There are drivers with new rides, and even if they stayed in the same ride, a new sponsor, a new crew chief, all kinds of things are different. There's even a different look for the defending series champion. Here's Dave Burns.
Alan, in 2006, both Carl Edwards and Kevin Harvick went for the Nextel Cup Championship and the Busch Series Championship. Kevin Harvick was successful in the Busch Series, dominating with his 9 wins. Well, here we are in 2007, and they're both back. The newly numbered number 21 of Kevin Harvick, newly colored that is, he has a little different agenda this year. He'll only race 14 times in this car, plus a few others in a car that he owns. As for Carl Edwards, he's going to go for both championships again. And a lot of people feel like the number 60 in the Busch Series is going to be the guy to beat for the championship. Jamie Little.
Well, Dave, there's 8 new faces in the field today. Many are saying this is the best rookie field in recent years. So who sits on top of that rookie field? Well, Juan Pablo Montoya, the former Formula One star, has been the talk of NASCAR the last 6 months. Now he looks to make his reign here in NASCAR in both the Busch Series and the Cup Series. Mike.
Well, Jamie, you mentioned that long list of rookies. Because of that, there's a diverse mix of experience and enthusiasm in this field. Certainly, you have the headliners, guys like Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr., but you also have guys like Stephen Wallace and David Reagan, guys with limited Busch Series experience on a super speedway. For them, certainly, it's very exciting, but also a bit daunting. And because of that, this practice takes on additional importance. They'll be communicating ideas back to their crew, trying to dial in their car. But more importantly, they'll be trying to find the line and the right etiquette, because at speeds beyond 185 miles per hour, this is the last place they'll want to make a rookie mistake. Brent?
Thanks, Mike. I'm with longtime crew chief Tim Brewer. And Tim, what are the crews going to try to accomplish today in this practice run?
Two things very important, Brett. We're going to tape up this whole grill area, making sure that the car's got the lowest drag number, meaning slick as possible to get through the air, so we can go out and put us down a qualifying lap, making sure that we're going to get in the event first of all. Then we're going to come back and open this grill area up so we have adequate cooling for the engine. Then we're going to look at every bit of the air flow over this car, coming down the side glass, around the back glass, attributing all the air we possibly can to the rear spoiler. So making sure that the car drives properly all day. Then we're going to come back here, relying back on our notes, shock absorber, springs, track bar location, weight distribution. Everything's been preset on this car to make sure that throughout the day the car runs consistently and drives well all day long. Driver comfort area, as well as this guy's going to be working all day really hard, so the more comfort we can put in this area, the better off it's going to be for him throughout the event. And hopefully we can bring him home in victory lane at the end of the day.
One thing, Tim. No illegal additives in the fuel, understand?
Nothing illegal on this car, Brett.
All right, Tim. You know, it's been 6 years since ESPN last covered a NASCAR race live. We are happy to be back. ESPN's presentation of the NASCAR Busch Series final practice is brought to you by Alka-Seltzer. Get relieved. Feel revived. We welcome you back to the Daytona International Speedway. So far, controversy has ruled the build-up to the Great American Race. 6 crew members overall. 3 teams involving 5 cars have been ejected from Daytona, and as our practice session unfolds, our experts will delve into the issue of Michael Waltrip, of course, driving the number 55 Toyota, and his crew chief David Hyder has been suspended indefinitely, and I referred to additive being found in his fuel system, and of course That is what we were referring to. That story, just one of so many that we have around this track. And right now, let's go back up top to Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Thank you, Brent. A NASCAR record $250,000 in fines have been handed out in the last couple of days over in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series garage. But this right now is the Busch Series garage. As you see, these guys getting ready to adjust on the cars. We have 49 NASCAR Busch Series cars here. And it'll be a 43-car field, so you do the math, and 6 guys are going to go home. It's going to be the sad 6. Now, here's the reason we're under yellow right now. That is the 77 car of Bobby Labonte. And a moment ago, guys, there was contact on the racetrack.
Yeah, he come off of turn 2 and got right in the outside wall, Jerry. It was a big crash for him. Really stirred up a lot of stuff back there in the back. Take a look. He's on the top side of the racetrack. Just aerodynamically loses the car. Let's watch this. Gets punted from behind. It looked like it was Kevin Harvick, hard hitting into the wall, back to the middle of the racetrack. I tell you, guys, that was a great job for these guys to hold on to that car under those conditions.
Yeah, we're real lucky we didn't have a big pileup back there, because you got him about 3 or 4 wide, we can see right here, and he gets punted from behind and goes straight across in front of these other guys. It's a wonder it didn't cause a huge crash.
You know, Kevin Harvick actually owns the 77 car, and he was the one right behind Bobby Labonte. Let's check down there with Dave Burns.
Yeah, how ironic, huh, Doc? He radioed into his crew, please tell them I am sorry about that. And in 2 ways, you never want to get into the back of a competitor like that and cause him to spin. But like you said, there's a ownership stake that Kevin has in that car, and he just wrecked the car he owns.
Bobby Labonte, the 2000 NASCAR Nextel Cup Series champion, won the Busch title back in 1991, was planning on running 18 events in the Dollar General car with a new platinum paint job this year. They went away from the all-yellow paint job a year ago. And guess what? The crew's now working to roll out the backup car.
Yeah, what they saw, as soon as they saw that crash, they know that the damage is too bad to fix that car. They're going to unload a backup car, and they're going to work as feverishly as they can to get that car back on the track so they can get some time with it before the practice is over. This is the last practice.
Well, right now, Bobby Labonte's thinking, what in the world did I just get hit in the back by my own car owner? It's his own car. Could it be the bump draft?
Well, he knows that it wasn't on purpose. Obviously, Kevin Harvick wouldn't wreck his own car, so he knows it wasn't on purpose. But, you know, Bobby's got to think, what in the world he thinking there?
Rusty, how does that happen? I mean, you're in a group of 20 cars in a draft. Let's say they're running 188 plus miles an hour. Do you get sucked in that quickly coming off the corner? How do you have that kind of contact?
Well, basically, it looks like what happened. They come off of turn 2, got a good head of steam coming out of back straightaway, Jerry. And I think that Kevin Harvick saw his own car, Bobby Labonte in the front, got behind him, going to try to help him draft through, and he just hit him too hard in the back. Let's watch this. Back in the back, you see Kevin Harvick lining up right now behind his own car. He's dead behind him. He goes to bump draft him, hits him too hard, and turns him sideways right into the wall. Now, look, Kevin owns that number 77 car. You know he didn't do it on purpose, but that's just how this bump drafting thing can go bad in a heartbeat.
It looks like, was Kevin coming down across the racetrack and not exactly behind him? So, well, let's see what Bobby Labonte has to say. Alan Bester just caught up with him.
Not the way you want to start your opening practice at Daytona. Bobby, what happened?
Well, you know, actually yesterday was okay for us. You know, we made some changes this morning. The car was really good. Wally did a good job with everything. And, I mean, just got a little crazy out there, obviously. And then, you know, some guys come out of the pits a couple laps before that or a lap before that. I think somebody else come out of the pits there and kind of getting a little squirrely. So I kind of got to the middle of the racetrack and was watching up there and got hit from behind and got in the fence.
It looked like it was your team owner's car that might have made contact with you. That's got to be a little awkward of a situation, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it was like a deal where, you know, I was trying to watch those guys in front of me, too, to be sure that they didn't mess up. But, you know, that's the way it goes.
All right, tough luck for Bobby. They'll get the backup car out, and they will go about preparing that.
Thank you very much, Alan. Here's a look at Kevin Harvick's car. And as you had talked about change at the beginning of this year, Kevin Harvick with a brand new paint job and new color scheme for the 21 car, who is the reigning NASCAR Busch Series champion. Well, our NASCAR coverage continues all week long from Daytona. We got NASCAR Now every weeknight on ESPN at 5 Eastern, ESPN 2 at 6 Eastern. Live qualifying 3 o'clock Eastern. Tomorrow, ESPN 2, and our coverage of the race starts at 12 noon on Saturday. We welcome you back to Daytona International Speedway. NASCAR Busch Series final practice session for the opening event of the year, the Daytona 300. They will be qualifying live on Friday at 3 o'clock, but this is the last time they'll be on the racetrack prior to qualifying. And look at the inside, 33, the Old Spice car. That's Tony Stewart, who has won this race the last 2 consecutive years in a row.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tony Stewart's one of the best out there. As you see, Stephen Wallace leading the draft right now with Martin Truex and Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards in hot pursuit. I tell you, this is the final practice for these guys, and this is a good group of guys to be involved in. A lot of experience out there right now.
And they've already seen a little bit of contact, some incidents on the track, so these guys are kind of calmed down. You don't see them going 3 and 4 wide. They're going to let it sort out here a little bit and kind of see how their cars are handling so they can make changes.
Guys, now there are several different agendas in work right now in process. We told you there are 49 NASCAR Busch Series cars here. The field will be 43. 30 of those 43 spots are guaranteed by owner's points from last year, plus the past champions provisional. And here are the drivers who will need to qualify on time and speed, and it's a pretty impressive list. In other words, you're going to have 12 spots available for 18 cars. Juan Pablo Montoya, obviously the rookie there. Robbie Gordon, NASCAR Cup Series champion. Joe Nemechek, two-time most popular driver, former series champion. Those guys all got to get in with their qualifying speed. So a little bit different agenda for those guys in this session.
Yeah, there's some heavy hitters that are not guaranteed in this race. You got some Indy 500 winners that are not guaranteed. Those Indy 500 wins don't buy them anything when it comes to qualifying for a Busch race. So these guys got to run a fast lap. They may try to go out there and run by themselves and see how fast they can run in the qualifying trim, and they have to make it on that speed.
One of the impressive young drivers is 19-year-old Stephen Wallace, and he was second fastest yesterday in the practice session until his troubles began. In the final session yesterday for the NASCAR Busch Series, he seemed to be minding his own business on the bottom of the racetrack coming out of turn 4, but then suddenly it all broke loose. Greg Biffle's car, a slight nudge in the back of Casey Mears. He slips and gets into the right side door of Stephen Wallace. Wallace goes sliding sideways to the grass. Watch Mears, boom, nose first into the outside concrete. Late yesterday afternoon, this crew goes to work on Stephen Wallace's car. The Home Life Communities crew now trying to cut the right side of the car off, grind and cut away as late as they let him work, trying to get it back in shape. They peeled off the decals. Early this morning, back in the garage area, they've flown in fabricators from the racing shop. 7 o'clock in the morning, putting door panels back, and guess what? All that work is paid off, and the Home Life Communities Dodge is back on the racetrack. Stephen Wallace, 19 years of age, not the way he wanted to get an entry into NASCAR Busch Series racing here at Daytona, Russell.
He told me, I didn't think I was going to have this bad luck getting the Daytona right off the bat. I told him, I said, look, you're doing the right things. That's just racing luck. When you're on the inside of the racetrack cruising along, and all of a sudden a car comes out of the clear blue, gets you in the side, I don't think it was your day. Maybe you woke up on the wrong side of the bed or something. Who knows?
Well, Alan Beswick's been down there watching all the work on this car. Let's check in with him.
Jerry, specifics on that. NASCAR allowed the team to work until 8:30 Eastern time last night, allowed them to come back in at 6 a.m. Eastern time this morning and resume the work. Bryant Frazier, the crew chief, told me they did replace all of the sheet metal between the front and rear wheels on the right side, plus the back right rear quarter of the car, but fortunately for them, did not have to replace any of the suspension pieces on the car. Steven reports the car is handling well. The crew says he's having a big time. He loves being in the draft.
All right, Stephen Wallace in the 66. Let's move up toward the front of this pack, in this draft pack. And how about a look at the 60 car? And that is Carl Edwards. There is the car of Edwards. That's the Jack Roush machine, the Miracle Grow machine. And Carl Edwards will be running the full NASCAR Busch Series season as well as a NASCAR Nextel Cup Series season. Finished runner-up a year ago after that impressive run by Kevin Harvick, who won 9 times.
I mean, it's pretty decent. You know, it's not bad.
Carl Edwards hoping to become the first driver ever to win both titles in the same year. Kevin Harvick gave it a heck of a run last year, winning the Busch Series title, finishing 4th in Nextel Cup.
A lot of guys think that Carl Edwards is a shoo-in to win this championship, Jerry. He's very consistent in this Roush Ford. Last year he finished 2nd in the points. He was strong throughout the year. Now Kevin's not going to run the full Busch Series this year, so with that happening, Carl's the man. Everybody's focused on him right now. But one thing they better pay attention to, there's a lot of other good cars out there that can probably get the job done too. This is going to be probably the most competitive year in the Busch Series I've ever seen in my life.
All right, as you watch that Ford move away, remember the newest kids on the block in terms of manufacturers are the Toyotas. The Toyota Camry will have 4 of those attempting to qualify the NASCAR Busch Series. 31-year-old Jason Leffler has 1 Busch Series win. He'll be willing the Great Clips Toyota Camry. And right now, there are some pretty good Toyotas in terms of speed toward the top of the charts. Jason Leffler, 4th overall in terms of speed here in this final session.
Jason Luffler's car, that thing has been fast. You know, Jerry, they took 3 or 4 different teams and combined them into one team. That's how expensive it's getting out here right now. And they put everything behind Jason Luffler to get this car going. A brand new program with the Camry. Let's take a look at this telemetry right now. Look, about 7,500 RPMs, Andy, going into turn 3, it looked like. Man, that is a lot of RPM for a Busch car, isn't it?
Well, some of these guys run high gears and turn these motors a lot of RPM. Some of them don't. They all have different RPM ranges they want to run in. But I tell you, the success that Toyota's had in the Truck Series, this is the same engine combination that they ran in the Truck Series last year and the years prior. So they've got a lot of development into this engine. So I expect the Toyotas to run good, at least under the hood.
Now let's clarify one thing, guys. And tomorrow, in the big 500 on Sunday, that engine and that Toyota, like the Waltrip teams, people like that, that engine is totally different than this Busch engine. This Busch engine has been derived from the truck engines. Let's clarify that. And these guys are pretty happy with that Toyota engine in the Busch Series.
Well, it is very developed and it's very mature, so these guys can have confidence, at least in the engine, and the cars themselves have got some work to do. It looks like these teams to be gelling with this new body.
Speaking of confidence, a couple of drivers are finishing up their final practice session, and maybe they called it today. Let's check in with Dave.
And Jerry, a little bit early to be calling it quits, but Casey Kane, I'm sure, has his reasons. You just told me you guys are done. Why?
We ran enough laps on our engine. We ran about 40 laps yesterday in the draft. Felt pretty good about that. The track was a lot different, and it was fine again this morning. We made some adjustments, Mike Shiplett, and these guys are doing a real nice job. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a bunch of cars in one area on Saturday. So if we're good enough to hang out in there and battle all day, it'll be a lot of fun.
Now, you guys always seem to worry about whether or not your car can draw up well. If you get out of that pack, have you found that your car works well on a closing rate?
It closes quick, and it can hang out front, too. It can sit out there and kind of hold the other cars off. So I like that about it. You know, I can get good runs on the car in front of me. And with these cars, unlike the Cup car, you get huge runs, and you just pull out and pass when you do get a run like that. So it makes it pretty fun. It gives you a little more to do as a driver, and you don't have to sit back and follow nearly as much.
Well, sounds like everything going well for Casey on this side of the garage in his 9 Busch car. Gary.
And Casey Kane, the 6-time winner in Nextel Cup competition a year ago, getting the Busch ride for Ray Evernham Motorsports. Who were the quickest thus far in this final session? How about the 2002 Daytona 500 winner, Ward Burton, leading the way? Back with more in just a moment.
Well, I've been coming to Daytona my whole life, you know, since I was a little kid. The town's really, really cool. Palm trees everywhere, sunshine.
It's just great to be on the beach. Everybody goes out to the clubs at night.
The energy is, I think, really hardcore in this town.
Daytona is known for the ocean deck. It's right on the beach. A lot of racers go there. It's got a lot of history to it. Just great feeling being here with all your racing buddies and kind of hanging out and having a good time.
And some very special memories for the young drivers who have been coming here a long time as second-generation competitors. Yes, we are back at Daytona International Speedway, just 4 miles west of the Atlantic Ocean. Here is this massive 2.5-mile facility, 31-degree banks. And on Saturday, the NASCAR Busch Series will open up their year with the Daytona 300 miles, 120 laps. And we have yellow out once again, and the 7 car of Mike Wallace, the Geico Chevy Monte Carlo. Alan, we are told, out of fuel?
Yeah, out of fuel, and crew chief Fred Wanke just told me it shouldn't be. Now, Mike Wallace and Fred Wanke are working together on a Nextel Cup Series car, and the other day, in getting ready for the Daytona 500, they had a problem with the pickup on the fuel in the car during qualifying. It was out of fuel. Fred said this car shouldn't be out of fuel. I hope we don't have the same problem over here. But they're going to bring it in and start taking it apart and see if they can figure it out.
Got to wonder if that gecko was just really thirsty this morning or something. Maybe not. Another Wallace. Obviously, this Michael is your younger brother, Rusty, but probably the biggest opportunity he's ever had in a NASCAR Busch Series ever.
Oh, absolutely right. I mean, he's Geico's with this team for 3 years at least. This is a great sponsor. I've been using Mike a lot in advertisements. Brand new TV commercials coming out for the Speedwicks here in Daytona and all year long. But, Andy, this thing running out of fuel, this is probably not a bad thing. They've got this thing completely out of gas. Now they can go to the pumps, right?
Well, if it's truly out of fuel, and that's what I would have expected here when I heard he was out of fuel, I thought maybe they were trying to just run it out of fuel fuel on purpose and see how much it would hold, how much they could draw out of the cell. But, you know, after Alan tells us that they don't expect it to be out, then they may have a problem, and it won't help them much at all if they have a problem.
Now, this obviously can happen. It's happened before at the beginning of the year when NASCAR takes all the fuel cells out and takes them apart and actually gives them back to you piece by piece, and you have to reinstall them yesterday. How can this happen where maybe the pickup doesn't pick up all the fuel?
Well, the guys have to take the fuel cell completely apart for inspection, and maybe they didn't get something back together properly, and that's what happened to them in the Cup side. They didn't put it together properly, kinked the line, and then shut the fuel flow off to the engine. I hope that's not what happened to them again.
If they have accidentally just miscalculated the fuel, the good thing about him running out of fuel is they've run it out where the motor's completely stopped. Now they go to the gas pumps and fill it completely up and calculate exactly how much fuel did this car hold, and that's the good thing about this problem.
All right, some teammates drafting now. You saw the 8 and the 88. That's Shane Huffman. That's the car that's owned by Dale Earnhardt Jr. Of course, that's Dale Earnhardt back in the 8 car, the Menards machine. And as you take a look at these times and speeds, what are you learning now as you look at some of the speeds here in this final session?
Really, you're not learning anything right now. These are all drafting speeds. These are speeds you get when you get a big draft, you run up on people. The biggest thing, and I'm sure Andy would agree, is you got to make sure these cars are handling good. Hey, look, if my car, Ward Burton, just ran 199.3, and he says his car handles great, well, that's good. That means the car can handle any type of situation on the racetrack.
Well, these times at Daytona really don't make that much difference. When you're looking at that, it's not anything you can gauge by, but it still feels good when you have your car up on the top of that thing, even if it was in a big draft.
Watching some of the Dale Earnhardt Incorporated and JR Motorsports cars go by. Speaking of Dale Earnhardt, how about his teammate in Cup, who's a 2-time Busch Series champion? He's standing by with Mike.
Well, Jerry, when it comes to Daytona, it seems like DEI treats it like a playground. This guy, pretty good here, too. 5 Busch Series starts at Daytona. Has finished outside the top 10 only once. How good's the car this time around?
Real happy with the Bass Pro Chevrolet. A little windy yesterday. It was a little tight in 3 and 4, so we ran some this morning, and the car's really good. Drives awesome on old tires, and it's really fast, too. So looking forward to the race. We're going to do a qualifying run here and see how fast it'll run, but looking forward to the race. Definitely got a shot at the win if we can be around at the end.
In comparison to other years where DEI has been dominant here at Daytona, how do these cars stack up to those years?
Well, it's the best Busch car I've ever had here, so it's better than the one I won with 2 years ago, and it's really, really good. So we'll just have to wait and see. You know, these things, anything can happen in these races. You know, you need to be around at the end of them. So we'll see what we can do and put our best for a Chevy and Victor Lane, hopefully.
Encouraging news for the DEI teams. A little bit distressing, I think, for everybody else. Jamie?
Well, Mike, Clint Boyer finished 3rd in the points in the Busch Series last year, and now, Clint, you guys are out making some adjustments and things in the 2 car, but you actually don't have any owner points. They went to your new teammate, Scott Wimmer, so what's it like for you? You actually have to qualify on time here.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you got to keep that in the back of your mind. We've been out there in race trim and had to pull the fenders out and do a lot of things to slow it down in qualifying trim to handle good for the race, which is our normal situation, but now that we got to make the show, we went out and made a mock run, and it's a little slow, so we got to pull back some of those adjustments and just make them in the race is all. But I think the BB&T Chevrolet is pretty good. I was really happy with it in race trim. We just got to pull back off that for a while.
And let's talk about the temperature. You guys, obviously, you were down here a couple weeks ago for testing. Things went well, but now you come back. It's a lot colder here. How is that affecting your setup?
Yeah, it's affecting it a little bit, but, you know, hopefully it'll be nice and warm like it was yesterday. You know, yesterday, in my opinion, was a good practice session because the wind was blowing. I mean, there was a lot of extreme conditions right there. It was hot outside. That if you can get to handling that, you'll be pretty good.
All right, Clint Boyer trying to improve his time. Guy's better than 43rd right now.
Thank you, Jamie. And how many times over the years did you hear us say, it is Wallace and Earnhardt drafting down the backstretch? Look at Earnhardt making a move, but this time it is Stephen Wallace and Dale Earnhardt Jr., second-generation drivers. And Earnhardt Jr. has a very quick car, but so does Stephen in the 66. And, of course, the 99, the Rudeman is no slouch.
Now, Rudeman's really strong out there. That Toyota Camry's been running good. And that's a good schooling for both those guys to Jafford Dale Jr. It looks like Stephen Wallace pulled up the racetrack to let him go by to try to get in a good draft. I tell you what, it's really good schooling because you got a guy like Dale Jr. who's won this thing so many times. I'd be lining up behind him to see what's going on.
Well, you got some guys lining up behind him. You got all 3 manufacturers, or 3 of the 4 represented here. You got a Chevrolet, a Toyota, and a Dodge, and another Chevrolet lurking with Tony Stewart.
Yeah, David Rudeman driving for Michael Waltrip in the Aaron's Green Machine Toyota. Maybe Michael can get some good news because this Toyota here in the NASCAR Busch Series is running awfully stout. Would have been hoping to be able to get a win. And you mentioned the strength of the 8 car, Dale Earnhardt Jr. He has 5 NASCAR Busch Series victories here. He won 3 in a row back in 02, 03, and 04 in February. And get this, guys, it's the same car that he led the most laps in this race a year ago, only to be passed with 11 laps to go here by Tony Stewart. But it's the car he came back and won with here in July. This car is very difficult to beat at this racetrack.
Well, he's like the Pied Piper. You see everybody lining up behind him. They know if they're going to win this race, they're going to have to beat that 8 car, and so they're going to run right with him and see what he's got and see what it's going to take for them to be able to beat him.
Well, this draft's getting ready to tighten up right now. Tony Stewart just moved down behind the 29 car, and that is going to be a good guy to draft with. Scott Wimmer. That RCR car is awful strong all the time as this thing just lines up right now. Mike, can you add?
Yeah, Dale Earnhardt Jr., although he's been dominant here at Daytona over the years, 5 Busch Series victories, not real happy with his car. You heard Martin Truex Jr. say just a while ago that he feels like this is the best car he's ever had here. Well, Jr. doesn't feel the same. Before he came in and made his last adjustment on the car, which was basically only scuffs, he was complaining that the car was slow. The time was a 49.60. He was not happy, and right now, still not much better. 34th on the speed chart.
Exactly. He's not even in the top 20 on the speed charts, and that will not make Dale Earnhardt Jr. happy. But who is in the top 10 in the speed charts? And who are the guys at the top of the list that are going to be smiling right now? Well, those are the guys like Ward Burton is there, John Wood, the second-generation Wood Brothers driver, and others, John Andretti in that crew. Back in a moment.
Welcome back to Daytona, everybody, and this aerial coverage is brought to you by Goodyear Tires, featuring triple tread technology. I'm Brett Musburger in our host booth here with former crew chief Tim Brewer. And Tim, as we have noted, the weather, it is cold here today, and we don't know what the track conditions will be on Saturday for the Busch race, but how is weather affecting what the crew chiefs and the crews overall are learning here now?
Tell you what, Brett, you know, you go back to where the guys came down here, it was 80 degrees when they tested. Now you're in a deal where, you know, it's 40 degrees outside. So, you know, the car's got a lot of tighter characteristics. So what you got to work on today is building adjustability in those cars so you can get them freed up where the nose continues to turn through the middle of the corner. And that weather's going to really affect them big.
Okay. Well, right now, let's send it back up on top. And here's Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Thank you, guys. Well, once again, we are under yellow, and unfortunately, once again, young Stephen Wallace is involved in the Home Life Communities Dodge, and an incident off of turn 2, and Rusty, this seems like he just can't catch a break here early on in the NASCAR Busch Series practice.
Yeah, I don't know what caused this particular one here. We'll take a look at the replay and see what happened. Looks like it's 3 wide. They were trying to get through. Let's see if he hurt the car any at all much. It looks like they're okay.
Looked like he may have just barely kissed the wall. No real damage. He's got flat tires, but I'm sure his pride's hurt a little bit on that one because yesterday he was just a victim, but here today it looks like he just gets loose. He just barely gets the wall with the rear corner. They won't have to work as hard on this one as they did on the one yesterday, so that's the good news.
Yeah, there's really no good news about that. If anything, you know, the experience these kids are getting right now at this young age is unreal. You know, you got to get these cars in different predicaments and barely touch the wall a little bit. You should see in the right rear. But the good thing is, if there's any good thing, is you should get that experience, and that's it.
I know he's very talented and extremely emotional the way you were in the car. Now, if you could talk to him, he's out of the car now walking around looking at the damage. If you could talk to Stephen right now, what would you say to him?
I'd just tell him right now, just calm down. And he did the right thing when I was trying to drive the car back in because it's got flat tires. And if they drove it in, the tires would come apart and try to tear the fenders off and stuff like that. He's got a fast car. It's running good. He's 11th quick right now. He just needs to settle down and look at the situation he just got himself into. We just saw in the replay where he shot up the pass of this car, and the car got loose on him. He'll go back tonight and think about that.
Well, what it looks like Stephen Wallace is looking at this car and saying, hey, guys, look, I don't have any damage from this wreck, and y'all please don't tear it up, getting it back to the garage so we can get this thing back out there.
You know, NASCAR mandates that every driver that has any kind of contact must take the ride back in one of the ambulances to be able to go back just through the care center. That's a safety precaution. And, of course, Stephen just tapped the car. And as you said, Rusty, the good news for you Stephen Wallace fans is that yesterday he was second quickest overall in practice. Today, after repairing the right side of that car where he was a victim of the Casey Mears spin on Wednesday afternoon, he is back in the top 15, in fact, 11th quickest overall. And there are a number of former series champions that are attempting to qualify for this race. One of them is standing by with Alan Bestwick.
And we just had to kind of part the seas here to let his car get out of the garage, and that's Greg Biffle. Greg, you all done?
Yeah, we're all done. I think the double stuffed Oreo car was almost double stuffed out there. It got pretty tight. They wrecked behind me, and Carl almost wrecked in front of me. But the track's just real loose this morning, and I think a lot of cars are real loose. But I know once it heats up and when race time comes, some more rubber, my car's going to be pretty good. But just a little free right now, a lot of speed, and we're going to get ready to qualify and see if we can make it in.
There have been a number of people have trouble in practice, both on the Nextel Cup side and here in the NASCAR Busch Series. Why are we seeing so many people get into trouble?
Well, you know, definitely the tire change. You know, there's been a tire change that Goodyear made to make the tire a little bit harder because of the bigger fuel cell. And that tire just doesn't have the grip, you know, to the racetrack anymore. And, you know, the cars move around a lot and the air blows you around. But when you get 3 wide, it seems like you lose so much aero when you get 3 wide that the tire doesn't have enough grip on its own, you know, and the car just takes off on you, the back of the car. That's what happened to me down 3 and 4. I almost wrecked. You know, just was in the middle kind of and really had a lot of room to the bottom guy, but my car just completely sideways and shot me down the racetrack, and I missed the guy in the bottom. But, you know, it's going to be tough to get 3 wide and race aggressively on this little bit harder tire. But, you know, we'll all be able to handle it, and it's going to be interesting.
All right, thanks for the time, Greg.
All right, Greg Biffle, one of 7 former NASCAR Busch Series champions, attempting to qualify. Bobby Labonte, Joe Nemechek, Steve Grissom, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kevin Harvick, the reigning champion, of course, and Martin Truex Jr. Among those 7 drivers, they have collected 10 NASCAR Busch Series titles. We are under caution here in the final practice session. A spin off of turn 2 involving Stephen Wallace. Good news is the car has minimal to no damage. And welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. NASCAR Busch Series final practice session right now under yellow while they clean up some debris in the backstretch. A spin involving the 66 car of Stephen Wallace. And speaking of history here, how about this guy, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car? Yes, we told you before he has 5 wins in NASCAR Busch Series competition. Do you remember? Okay, let's turn back the clock and tell you. February 16, 2002, Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins his very first Busch Series race at Daytona and celebrates with a big hug from Richard Childress, who was a car owner for his dad, for 7 titles. The following year, boy, it got angry in a hurry on the final lap. Todd Bodine bumps Jimmy Vasser on the next to the last lap. And they continue to collide at 185 miles an hour. And guess who Dale Earnhardt does? Not donuts, he did Oreos in victory there. The same year in July, Jr. led wire to wire to win the Winn-Dixie 250 under the lights here at night. And yes, they're waving the flag for the Earnhardt crew and his legion of fans. And then how about 2004? Junior used just a little bit of bump help from Greg Biffle. There is Biffle in the 60 car behind him to pass Kevin Harvick. And he takes home his 3rd consecutive NASCAR Busch Series victory here at the World Center of Racing. And at the last Busch race last July, June 2006, Earnhardt captured the Busch victory and now trails only his dad in terms of total wins. His dad, Dale Earnhardt Sr., has 7 victories. How about that? 11 races, 5 wins, 6 top 5. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. has won 5 of the last NASCAR Busch Series, 5 of the last 10 NASCAR Busch Series races run here at Daytona International Speedway. And guys, in any major league of sorts, that's batting 500. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's just amazing. This guy is so good in these Busch cars. Dale Jr. has really been setting the standard. You know, he taught a lot to Martin Truex also. Truex has been just about as strong as Jr. has at these racetracks. You know, they come out of the same camp. They talk a lot. And, you know, if you think about it, it all trickles down from Dale Sr.
Well, I know I came down here all 3 years that I worked for his dad, Dale Earnhardt Sr. He didn't lose a Busch race, and I know he was during that. It was probably during that run where he won about 5 or 6, 7 in a row. I can't remember how many it was in a row, but he won a lot of Busch races down here.
He won 5 in a row of his 7, so that was pretty good string for Dale Earnhardt Sr. Now, as we watch the second-generation driver on the racetrack, let's go and talk to another second-generation driver who's had his lumps the past couple of days. Mike?
Well, Doc, you can tell your partner there in the booth, he's got a pretty tough little son. Stephen Wallace just leaving the care center. He's fine. What happened?
We were just coming off of turn 2, tied up in a draft 3 wide, and I was in the middle. Just got a little bit loose, and yeah, as all it happened is like that was spun down the backstretch. The only reason I had to go to like the medical center is because I got out of my car. I didn't want to drive it in because all 4 tires were flat. The car didn't hit anything, you know. So, but our number 66 Home Life Communities Dodge was fast. You know, we're really looking forward to Saturday for sure.
We're hearing a lot of guys talking about the tires, saying they don't have very much grip, making for dicey conditions. Based upon that, what do you expect on Saturday?
There is 0 grip. You know what I expect of like a bunch of people doing the same thing that I just did. You know, yesterday, I was involved in a wreck that wasn't my fault due to like Casey Mears' car getting loose. The tires just don't have any grip in them. You can't lean on them hard. But like my car's not hurt one bit, and we're just gonna bolt 4 more tires on it and like go back out and practice here in a minute.
Good luck the rest of the week.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Stephen Wallace, guys.
And here's what I was referring to yesterday. The 24 car of Casey Mears spinning around and got him in the right side door. And they had to go to a backup car for Mears, and they had to fix the right side as they worked till the wee hours last night. And then early this morning, just after 7 a.m., the team back trying to fix the right side of the car. And now another crash on the racetrack over in and guess Casey Mears involved in the backup car. Also, there's the 55 car, and that is the efforts of Robbie Gordon. And
John Andretti also involved.
There's Robbie Gordon's Motorola Ford. He has some damage on the right side. There's the 24, the National Guard machine of Casey Mears. And he's having the same kind of luck that Stephen Wallace is having.
Tell you what.
Let's check in with Jamie in the Casey Mears pit.
Well, guys, yesterday Casey Mears just said he was running his car too loose, went into the wall in 4, so they ruined that primary car, basically irreparable. Today he's in the backup car. I just asked the team. They said they do not have another car on the premises. This is all they have. They need to make it work. They said they do have another car en route from their shop in Charlotte, North Carolina, but guys, this is all he has right now for Casey Mears. First time seeing him in the 24 car.
All right, Jamie, we were actually showing the highlight, or maybe it's a low light of what happened yesterday with Casey Mears, and son of a gun, this happened just a moment ago here. Let's take a look. No, he's body slammed on the left by the 55, but I think the 55 might have gotten a bit of a bump from behind, that being the Gordon car.
The 55 car, Jerry, was in the center, and he got loose also. And as he got loose, he had to get out of the throttle. He got a little bump and then came flying back across the track and got 24. It looks like this time Casey Mears was an innocent victim on this one.
Alan Bestwick, as we watch the replay, what's the discussion down there as to what actually happened?
Just talked to the crew chief of Jamie McMurray's car, Newt Moore. He said they lost the engine. The engine broke in their car, which is why they slowed, and the other people got into them and started the whole wreck.
Yeah, it looked like a chain reaction accident. Somebody slowed up, and I thought maybe somebody had just not gotten up to speed, but if he blew an engine, that explains why he was slow.
Yeah, there's Jamie McMurray in the 37 car, the Clarence Brewer machine, the Yardman-sponsored Ford Fusion, and that would explain he blew an engine, backed out of the throttle in a tight draft. Let's see if we can see again. Now there's the 37 right in front of the 24 car, so apparently he slows up and everyone behind him sort of tries to jam up, and what, you're 185 miles an hour.
When you got that much momentum going and you guys are in that big a draft out there like these fellows were, and one guy in the outside lane checks up out of the throttle, whether he's out of fuel or he blew a motor, he's got a flat tire, something like that, they just can't react that quick, and it causes a big chain reaction.
And it's also at the worst part of the racetrack. This is where all the guys have been having trouble with their cars and getting loose, and we saw Stephen Wallace spin out a while ago, so that was the worst possible place they could have that kind of problem.
And you see the Robbie Gordon car, his Ford being taken back to the garage area. Heavy damage in the right side door and right front as we go back down there once again and check in with Dave Burns.
And Jerry, as he rolled around the track, of course, very upset about getting this car wrecked as he did. He radioed back to the crew, we're not going to be in the race. I confirmed with the crew they do not have a backup car. This was the car, and it's pretty well chewed up on that right side.
And Dave, his plans were to run 8 to 12 NASCAR Busch Series races with that Motorola sponsorship. And remember, they moved over from Chevrolet. They went on the Ford deal this year. Ford in the NASCAR Nextel Cup as well as the NASCAR Busch Series. Roush Yates engine had really good horsepower and had high hopes of maybe having a good run here at Daytona, debuting that new Motorola sponsorship, but obviously it can come away in a hurry. And Rusty, people at home may say, well, the car doesn't look too bad, but in terms of Daytona, that damage is pretty significant.
Well, it is pretty significant, but you saw what happened to Steve Wallace's car yesterday. They fixed it overnight. Now, I don't know why they can't fix this car and get it going. Knowing Robbie Gordon the way I know him, he's looking around going, you know what? Let's take a look at this thing. We might be able to get it going.
Hey, Dave?
Well, let's check with Robbie right now. I discussed it, I'm sure. I know this is your only race car, Rob. Can you get it fixed and get it qualified?
You know, the sad part was we just talked about we were fourth on the board, now we're third on the board. Talked about parking this thing, and I was going to come down. I saw the 22 and 24, I think, check up. I checked up behind them, and I think the 59, they said on the radio, blasted me in the back. It's just practice. I don't get it, but yeah, we can fix this car. We got a great race team, and it is our only race car. Put all our eggs in one basket. Obviously, it's very fast. We are a little disappointed about that, but we can fix it. It won't be a big deal.
You need to make it on time. So again, you looked at that right side. These things are all about being smooth and aerodynamic. Do you think it can be quick enough to make the show?
Oh, it's going to the house. This car will definitely end up going to the house and have to go back through tech tomorrow morning. But we got till 3:30 to get it back down here.
All right, these guys are going to work hard. Robbie owns this car, as I think Jerry mentioned, and he is going to try to get it back in the show. And Jerry, he's a tough guy, and he's once again got adversity against him. He's going to work his way out of it, he hopes.
Robbie Gordon, right side damage on his Ford. This incident with a blown engine by Jamie McMurray. They back up behind him. McMurray slides. Casey Mears and Robbie Gordon involved. We are under yellow once again at Daytona. NASCAR's Busch Series practice coming your way live from Daytona International Speedway, and we have had incident after incident this morning. This is the latest involving Casey Mears and his backup car after Mears spun yesterday in practice. Maybe a little bit of a tap from behind, and this one he was the victim of a blown engine of that car, the 37 Yardman Ford of Jamie McMurray, and they all. Rusty Wallace bunched up like he would on the interstate when someone wants to turn left from the right-hand lane.
Oh, that was a tough one. Jamie McMurray lost that engine right in front of the entire field. Now, Jamie doesn't have any damage here that I can see. They're just towing him in on the hook, we call it. But, boy, did it cause a melee behind him, because when he slowed so rapidly, they just couldn't get slowed down. The 59 car got into him in the rear end and spun around Marcus Ambrose, got right in the back of Robbie Gordon driving the 55. And when Robbie got across the racetrack, he hit the 24, Casey Mears, and what a problem that caused. As you can see, the 59 Marcus getting to him. Now the 55 of Robbie Gordon turns into Casey Mears. And take a look at the 37 of Jamie McMurray, the fellow who caused the whole problem, gets away unscathed, Andy.
That's the way it works sometimes with these chain reaction wrecks. The guy that causes them up in the front usually gets by scot-free, and all the action's behind him. So he was really lucky that he didn't have anything more than engine damage.
Now, we told you about the variable agendas today. This 24 car is not guaranteed a starting spot in the field, and he will have to qualify one of these cars. They'll have to repair on speed, whereas the 37 car of McMurray is guaranteed by virtue of car owner points being in the top 30 from Clarence Brewer a year ago.
Well, one of the advantages Casey Mears has is he drives for a big team, Rick Hendrick Motorsports, and they'll maybe have another car from one of these other teams that he could take out and qualify. So, you know, it looks bad for him, and anytime you tear up two cars, it's bad. But he may have another car available to him from one of the other teams.
Well, now he has practiced, and so legally he's okay to get in another car and get it through tech line and submit it for qualifying to go out. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. He could get another car from one of his teammates. They can wrap it with decals, make it look just like this car, and then he'd be fine to go out there and qualify, and no problems with NASCAR at all.
Well, that's a cool thing about Rick Hendrick's organization. He's got so much depth. They're pretty confident. If they have to bring another car, I'm sure that they'll wrap it, get it all ready, get the right engine in it, and get that baby back out there and probably be just fine.
And they're gonna have to call on some of that depth here too right now. This is big.
All right. As you take a look at these NASCAR Busch Series cars pulling away, how different is a NASCAR Busch Series car, say, than the Nextel Cup car that's in one garage over in terms of aerodynamics?
These Busch cars have a special aero package that NASCAR developed a few years back on the Cup cars, where they put this fin on the roof to cause more drag, and they put a big gurney lip on the back spoiler to make more drag and make the cars have to push through the air harder, and they got to have more power, so they open up the restrictor plate more to give them more acceleration. It makes for good racing, good side-by-side close racing. We can see on top of the Navy car that roof wicker we're talking about, and then on the back, if you look at on the back of the car, on the spoiler, it's got a big gurney lip is what they call it. This is a whole different package than they have in the Cup Series. The Cup cars don't have that. They just have regular spoilers. They don't have that lip on top, so it is definitely a different feel for the cars.
And in terms of the size of the cars, you can't tell it by looking at them, but these are 105-inch wheelbase cars versus 110-inch for the Cup car. And also, I guess the biggest difference, Rusty Wallace, is the fact that they have small carburetors. Now, here's what you're talking about on the roof.
Yeah, this roof strip right here across the roof causes a lot of drag, which lets the cars behind you really draft up much closer to them. Now, this thing is very crucial. The height of it, NASCAR is very, very particular about how it's installed and the shape of it, the edges of it, and everything. As Andy can contest to, you made a lot of these, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, we had some success with this. When Bobby Hamilton won in our car at Talladega, this is the package we had. We had this roof wicker on there and that gurney lip, and that was a great package. I don't know why they ever went away from it in the Cup Series, but they still have it in the Busch Series.
And for those of you who are pilots, what that does is that helps stall the air on the roof of the car. Then here's the lip on the spoiler, Rusty.
Now, the lip on the rear spoiler right here, a lot of people confer this is called a gurney lip. A gurney lip came from the name Dan Gurney a long time ago when he designed something like this on an Indy car. So it's just a catchphrase. But anyway, it does grab a lot of air, creates a lot of downforce on the car. And as you can see, with the lip on top of the roof causing turbulence, and then the gurney lip strip in the back causing a lot of downforce, these cars generally are really bolted to the ground pretty good. A lot of downforce, they generally handle real well. But Goodyear has brought a different tire, a much harder tire, which is playing havoc to a lot of these guys. Knowing Goodyear like I know them, I can guarantee it's a real durable tire, but it's doing something. Now, Andy, let's explain this to the folks at home. This gurney lip, there's a template that goes around there too, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, NASCAR's got a lot of control over these things. Any little thing you do to that lip and that spoiler makes such a big difference. In NASCAR, you saw seals actually on the back of the spoiler. They won't let you touch that after inspection.
You can take that rear spoiler, and we talked about earlier in our broadcast, if you could lower that thing about 1/4 of an inch, this car will run faster and faster and faster on a Cup car. Now, these Busch cars, this gurney strip really plays havoc. A lot of time, these guys will try to lower the cars, angle that spoiler back, get in the wind tunnel, work real hard, and they find out that this thing really does not react the same as a regular rear spoiler does. So it's a bit of a nightmare for these folks.
All right, the final practice session for the NASCAR Busch Series cars is winding down. You see the cars flashing by there with all their roof flaps on top, and those little flaps that stall the air on the roof to try to create more air turbulence and allow the cars to draft up, as these guys talk. The Zero car, back by the way, the hefty car, that is Eric McClure. That car will run the full year as we check back in with Mike Massaro.
Casey Mears just walked out of the care center. He's fine. But his race car and his organization in a whole lot of hurt right now. 2 race cars in 2 days. How do you adjust?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, I don't know. I guess the thing that they'll probably do is probably pull the 5 backup car out for right now. It's the only thing we can do at the moment. I don't know what happened. I guess Jamie said he just lost power. Something happened, and I was stuck up top. So not good. Not good. Yesterday, it was just really, really loose and lost that car there. And then today, we finally actually very happy with the car. The car was working well in the draft, way better than the primary was. So we were pretty happy at the moment. And unfortunately, now we gotta go to a 3rd backup. So not good for the National Guard Chevrolet. I feel sorry for all the guys. I mean, we're just starting out of the gate, and they got a lot of work to do. But they'll get it figured out. We'll be okay.
Well, good luck. Let's go to Alan Bestwick.
And here with Dale Earnhardt Jr. going to talk to you about 2 different cars. First of all, the one that you're driving, the 8 car. You only ran a few laps. How is it?
It's good. We don't want to, put a whole lot of laps on the motor. The cars obviously got a great history. Won some races here in Talladega, and should be just fine.
And we're standing in front of the JR Motorsports Hall. You're over here checking on the car you own that Shane Huffman's driving. How about an update on them?
Yeah, Navy Chevrolet seems to be doing pretty good. Shane's learning. The car's really, really good. Wes and the guys and G-Boys built a great race car, and it's fast. And Shane's just trying to learn what he can to get there. And I was out there with him a little bit, and he, I'm talking to him and helping him as much as I can back at the bus after practice and whatnot. So we'll just try to keep fenders on it and bring it home.
Shane Huffman has never been in one of these restrictor plate races. What's the one biggest lesson you've tried to impart on him for Saturday's race?
It's really tough, but you got to have a lot of patience, and you got to relax. You got to really learn to relax. If you're kind of erratic and moving around, because you're really overwhelmed with what's happening around you, and you have to really relax, or you'll cause the wreck. You'll be the wreck. So, it was hard for me to learn. I didn't finish any bush races the first 2 years I came to the plate tracks, just wrecking. So I can speak from experience, but even though I can tell him that, it's really difficult to do, and I know he'll do his best.
Thanks for the time. Relax, the key for his driver, Shane Huffman, on Saturday.
All right, Dale Earnhardt Jr., 36 quickest in this practice. But for you Earnhardt fans, don't worry. He's a typical Earnhardt. He realizes they don't pay the money until pole day on Friday, and then $2.5 million up for grabs on race day. Back in just a moment.
We welcome you back to the Daytona Speedway, and of course our coverage continues all weekend long, and don't forget that tomorrow we'll have qualifying at 3 Eastern here on ESPN2. This is the final practice session for the Busch Series here at Daytona. Tony Stewart, of course, has won the last 2 Busch races here, but last year this series was completely dominated by Kevin Harvick. Let's go to Dave Burns. Dave?
Well, Brent, I know Kevin Harvick would like to dominate again in 2007, but not running enough races probably to do that. Although if you win as much as you did last year, who knows? So let's talk about a couple things here. First of all, I had a little incident with a car you own out there. Kevin, what happened?
Well, I had a run on him and just hit him in the left rear quarter panel and sent him the wrong direction. Just got to him faster than I anticipated. They said he let off. I haven't talked to him yet, and regardless, you don't want to wreck anybody in practice, let alone your own car. So, but our AutoZone Chevrolet is driving a little bit loose, pretty fast, but just have to keep ourselves out of trouble tomorrow. That'll be probably looks like the main objective so far.
And your car now, how is it running? As you said, a little bit loose to me earlier. Is that good?
I think so. A lot of people are complaining of tight. So we're a little bit free up off the corner, but so I think that's a good thing compared to everybody else.
Okay, Kevin's out of the car. They are done practicing for today. He'll go qualifying tomorrow. To Alan Bestwick.
Overlooking the Hendrick Motorsports team, this is Kyle Busch's crew for this NASCAR Busch Series race, unloading the backup car from their hauler to deliver to their teammate, Casey Mears, who has been involved in 2 accidents, one yesterday and one today. That car will now become Casey Mears' car for Saturday's race.
All right, thanks, guys. And we talked about the incident with Kevin Harvick earlier today, and that is the car he owns. That is actually the backup car for Bobby Labonte, former NASCAR Busch Series champion. And it has been a very eventful day in this final practice session. It all began in the early minutes of practice off of turn 2. There's the tap from behind by Kevin Harvick, and the Dollar General Chevrolet just threw 50 cents out the window. That whole damage on the right front there, they could not repair the car in a hurry. And how about Stephen Wallace, the car just getting a little out of shape, just touches the wall with that right rear bumper, slides it across, keeps it out of the inside wall, and the 19-year-old climbed out of the car, 4 flat tires, a little bit of frustration, but he'll be back on the track momentarily. And, of course, the biggest incident of the day involved a couple of cars heavily damaged. The 37 of McMurray blows an engine. Robbie Gordon's car comes together with a 24 of Casey Mears, and heavy damage on Mears' backup car. Yes, it is the backup car because yesterday his primary car was damaged in an incident off of turn 4. They're going to have a lot of work to do on the National Guard Chevrolet to get him ready for qualifying at 3 o'clock on Friday. Final minutes of the final practice session coming your way from Daytona when we come back. NASCAR Busch Series action on the exclusive home at ESPN2. Here we're back with the final practice session at Daytona, and Ward Burton, a 45-year-old former Daytona 500 winner, getting back full-time. Now in NASCAR Cup Series action, will also run about 25 NASCAR Busch Series events, and a 25-year-old second-generation driver, John Wood, in the 47 car. He is second quickest overall. Both those guys just a hint under 190 miles an hour. And how about an owner who has 6 cars in the NASCAR Busch Series field, but a big day yesterday for Jack Roush. For many years it was called Roush Racing, but not anymore. Now it is going to be called Roush Fenway Racing. New England Sports Ventures owner John W. Henry, the principal owner of the Boston Red Sox and Fenway Park. on hand with Josh Beckett, Mike Timlin, and Tim Wakefield, 3 Boston Red Sox pitchers, and all 5 of Jack Roush's drivers. And they decided they were going to merge this partnership. 50% now ownership by John W. Henry and the Fenway Group. It is Roush Fenway Racing. So that is a landmark announcement for NASCAR racing.
Jerry, it's costed so much money to run these teams now. I'm hearing a lot about this from many, many people. There's a lot of people out of New York City coming down to our sport. A lot of talks about buying up different teams, creating initial public offerings. Yeah, you're probably going to see these teams on the NASDAQ, on the New York Stock Exchange, stuff like that. When you're spending $25 million per team to get going, and the sponsors are pretty well tapped out, they got to find alternate income. Now they're talking about these mergers and these partnerships.
Well, the top 4 speeds are Fords, and those are all Roush Yates engine packages in these cars. So looks like John Henry's got a good package to start with in the Busch Series.
Yeah, Ford awfully good down here. Ford top 4 and 8 of the top 10. And as you're taking a look at a lot of these guys, Clint Boyer, they're looking at the speed charts, his new BB&T colors, as there are some of the Richard Childress guys. And here's the 33 car, the Old Spice machine of Tony Stewart. And got to wonder if that's, are they maybe checking some fuel?
That would be it, Doc. They sent Tony out there a little bit ago and told him he had 5 or 6 laps of fuel in the car. They have found what their limit is. Tony, the 2-time defending winner of this race, has been struggling to get his cars to close on the cars in front of him in the draft like he feels it should. They've been working on that all yesterday and all today in this final practice, looking for that winning form to try and make it 3 straight.
All right, at the other end of the spectrum from a 2-time champion, how about this number? I mean, you turn back the clock. This is Brad Teague out of Johnson City, Tennessee. And wow, you look at that number, reminds you of Jimmy Smut Means in the old days, trying to make it as a struggling independent without a sponsor.
Well, Brad Teague's been around the Busch Series a long time and trying to come down here for one more big ride. He's going to have to get his car up to speed, though. He's very bottom of the sheet. He's 48th out of 48 cars, so these guys are running single runs by themselves, trying to make some more speed and hopeful that they can make the race.
You can tell when these guys got pressure on them. You know why? They have no sponsors on these cars. When there's nothing on a car and you're at Daytona, you're here for the big one. You're hoping to get some sponsorship. You're hoping to run good. And I got to tell you, this can be a struggle for him.
You know, that's what NASCAR racing is all about. It's all about getting an opportunity, getting a chance to live the great American dream. David Gilliland lived it last week, and he put Jack Roush's car on the pole as a rookie at Daytona. It can happen. Here's a team without a whole lot of money and without a whole lot of help. Jimmy Means owns the car, but they're here to try to get it in the field. Let's head down to the garage area.
Jerry, I wanted to give you guys an update on the 55 of Robbie Gordon, also trying to get in the field, also with 1 race car. That damage earlier from the track seemed to be very severe. He talked about taking it to the house, and of course we speculated as to whether he'd want to take it all the way back to North Carolina. Fortunately, a call came from a friend, Troy Fleece, who used to drive whose cars he used to drive in the 24 hours of Daytona here. Troy is in Daytona. He offered up his shop, and Robbie believes that's where they'll be taking this car to reskin the right side and make it qualifiable for tomorrow afternoon.
So they hope to get this car back out. It is a very fast car, and as you said, it is the only car that Robbie Gordon has with the Motorola colors on it for the NASCAR Busch Series. And by the way, David Gilliland won the pole for Robert Yates Racing and the M&M's Ford for the Daytona 500. Here are the top speeds thus far. Which one of these guys will be our pole sitter? We'll give you our
part of the scene here at the Daytona Speedway, Daytona Beach, Florida. We look down upon the sparkling lake waters. It has been chilly here today, and Tim Brewer, we've had 3 what I would call, I guess, semi-major incidents during practice out here today. We damaged a lot of equipment. Now, you as a former crew chief, what's your observation about what unfolded?
Well, you know, the guys are trying to get accustomed to this aero package with this new tire. And, you know, the tires right now, they're not liking this cold weather from what I see. You know, the cars are getting loose. The guys are really having to chase things a lot. And that weather plays havoc in the situation. Therefore, I think the guys are going to have to build adjustability into the cars, making sure that they can tighten them up. Because, you know, it surprised me this morning. I thought, well, you know, when it gets hotter, it's going to free these things up a lot. Kevin Harvick's statement was, hey, his car's already free, so you got to have some adjustability in that thing to, you know, manipulate, you know, because the weather dictates the track conditions.
Tim, they have closed the practice session, and I'm wondering, in a session like this, does it have any bearing at all on tomorrow's qualifying times, or will we see a completely different list of drivers at the top?
Well, I think you're going to see the guys that are not in the event, they're in a situation where they can't adjust them cars. They have to go with whatever runs fast on the racetrack. Speed's all they're interested in right now, and that's a determining factor, you know, because if they don't qualify, they don't race. So, you know, they're in a box by themselves. Everybody else can work on race setups, but the guys that have to get in on time, they're committed to the other aspect, and that's running fast.
All right, so let's go back up to the gang up on top. And Dr. Jerry, I'll tell you what, we had one incident after another today, and hopefully all those cars can be repaired in time for qualifying tomorrow. We'll be on the air, of course, at 3 Eastern time. So back we go to Jerry.
Thank you, Brent. It has been an eventful day for this final practice session. Here's a look at the top 10 in speeds. 45-year-old Ward Burton in the 27 car. 25-year-old John Wood, second-generation driver. You heard the story about Robbie Gordon's got to repair his car. How about Stephen Leich? That is the Robert Yates car. Yes, the same Robert Yates that swept the front row for Daytona 500 qualifying, and John Andretti, the famous name there, 5th overall. Guys, that's the top 10, but I want to get your picks for the favorites for the run for the pole for the NASCAR Busch Series tomorrow.
You know, when I look at this field of cars right here, I'm looking at the whole lineup, Jerry, and I keep looking at Kyle Busch's car. For some reason, it just stays in my mind. That's a super team, Rick Hendrick's team. The guy always runs good in his 5 car here at Daytona. So I tell you what, I'm going to go out on the limb right now and say I'm going to pick him for the pole.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick another Yates car. That Stephen Leich is in the Robert Yates car. They won the pole. They swept the front row in the 500. I think they got enough momentum to carry it over to the Busch Series pole.
All right, a couple of picks there from those guys. Obviously, there's the 37 car of McMurray. They're going to have to change an engine prior to qualifying at tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern time. And remember now, that's the final practice session. It is over. The next time these drivers climb in these cars, they will roll out at 3 o'clock Eastern time live on ESPN2 for our coverage of qualifying from Daytona International Speedway. But here are some guys that have some work to do and some worrying to do. How about early on today, the bump there for the 77 car. Bobby Labonte, former series champion, he had to bring that damaged car in and unload the backup Dollar General Chevrolet. Stephen Wallace, 2 days, 2 wild slides, and just nabs the wall with the right rear. 4 flat tires. Fortunately, he's okay in the Home Life Communities Dodge. And of course, remember that car very, very quick in practice. Here's the worst incident of the day involving Robbie Gordon as he shuffles into the right side of the 24 car of Casey Mears, all because the 37 car blew at engines, and Casey Mears' backup car now damaged, and the Hendrick team going to work there on that Chevrolet Monte Carlo to try to get him back out. Stephen Wallace out of his car. He's okay. He could be a factor. 19 years of age, second-generation driver trying to win his first ever Busch Series event here at Daytona. Well, Brent, final practice is over. Now all these crews and drivers can do is watch, worry, and wait.
Yeah, exactly, Jerry. Thank you very much. And again, a reminder now of what Jerry Punch just told you. Our NASCAR Busch Series action resumes at ESPN tomorrow with qualifying here at Daytona. We'll take the air at 3 Eastern time, leading up to the green flag on Saturday with coverage at noon. All coming to you on ESPN2. In fact, ESPN will cover the entire season of the Busch Series, the first wall-to-wall coverage, live coverage of the Busch Series by one network. We can take a look at some of the scenes from today, as this was the final practice session. Some of the familiar faces and the favorites and some of the great owners who are going to be present here all weekend. Cold Pizza will be coming up next on ESPN2. And again, a reminder that this has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, and for all of us here at the Daytona Speedway. So long, everybody.